So y'all are two people that have just an extraordinary amount of talent, huge networks. Why Indianapolis? Why are you put this much work, I'm guessing hours upon hours upon hours, into this city?
Well, that's an easy one for me.
And good question as well.
Yeah, I love that question, but I really love the whole village mentality. I love that I can drive all around Indianapolis and point to my own history and talk to my kids about, where my grandmother used to live and my first mural, and where I went to school, where they're now going to school. My girls have the same doctor that I had. I like that. Which sometimes can make my city feel smaller than I would like, but I'll take it.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of opportunity in Indianapolis to grow, and I think that we want to help the city in our own special way by producing, promoting, and preserving culture here. And it's a special place to be, and we have a lot of history here, so why not help make the future?
So now you're helping make history in Indianapolis, and you've both been doing that already, right? But let's talk about each of your histories a little bit. So kind of what was the path to GANGGANG? And Alan, why don't you start?
My personal path to GANGGANG, professionally, I spent a lot of time in for-profit education. I was the campus president at Harrison College. So doing that over 12 years, but at the same time, personally being a performing artist in the city. So music and just the creative arts scene was always near, dear, and close to me. And then everything 2020 happened, and prior to 2020 we happened, and this really, I think, this began just the journey on what could Indy, how can we make Indy better in our own special way? And I think that's through culture, just through the creative arts, and that's through just us. Yeah.
I think my journey is longer.
No, I was I forgot the question as we're talking. You know what I mean? So just complete your journey, then I'll maybe get some more journey.
Well,
there's a part of the journey where your two journeys intersect, and we'll dive into that in a second.
That's true.
Too.
Yes, you skipped that.
Oh yeah.
My career, I had a short stint right out of college at MS Communications, so I was doing radio stuff, and it was all fun and great, but not meaningful. And so my career started at the Arts Council of Indianapolis, learning the arts landscape of our city, and what we call art and who we call artists and who we don't, and who gets funded and who doesn't, and even where we're putting our attention, which at the time, this was 2005-06, it was very much focused on fine visual artists, not even the performing artists, the literary artists, and that whole underground scene that was just underground. But anyway, spent 5 years there kind of learning this is my foundation, and then my personal brand started to become this of the girl who talks about arts and culture and diversity and race stuff all the time, and then the civic pride thing trickles in. And so, my career kind of were these three lanes, art, culture, civic pride, and equity. And in the summer of 2020, they just collided in a beautiful way. Yeah, it converged and collided in this very amazing way where it was oh my gosh, yeah, duh, this is it. We can't even talk about one of the lanes without the other. And GANGGANG is kind of just a beautiful combination of all three of those things as a strategy to something new.
What I've always admired about you, I like you too, Alan, I want to be clear. But what I've always admired about you, Molly, is since the first time I met you, it was always clear that you were always forging your own thing, right? Even in somewhat traditional job environments, traditional companies, you were still creating your thing. So how do you think that where does that come from? The idea that I don't necessarily like the way this works, so I'm gonna make the thing work the way I want it to.
Ooh, I wonder, because I'm not that type of person. I am a hesitant and shy little girl, at my core. I think maybe it did I remember being at the Arts Council one day, and I was in charge of the newsletter, right? The e-news that goes out every Wednesday. And so I was supposed to put in this job description for the president of the Madam Walker Theater Center. And I was I'm just not going to put it in because I'm going to go for it. And I think that was someone said to, shoot for the moon and land in the stars. And so that's just kind of been my MO. Like, okay, this isn't working. I'll get in and edit it and fix it, and I just like keep doing that just because that's how you build cities, I guess. You want to improve a place, so you just like get in and work your way up and do that.
Okay, so the two of you already both impressive in your own rights, and then find a way to each other. And while maybe a little whiskey right now is the right time to talk about this, but how did you find each other? How did you end up, how did you end up being not just a couple, right? And combining your families, right? But also then starting to create things together as well.
Well, I think we met in element of creation. So we met at during the leadership exchange hosted by the Indy Chamber in Nashville. So Nashville is also a music city. So there's a lot of creative things just within just that city. And meeting there on that trip, understanding that there's not a lot of young professionals that were even invited to come, and just so being there. So I think that's kind of where we start to at least to gain some sense of respect for each other within like the professional arena. And then we were asked to, actually, Molly presented an idea to the COO at the time at the Indy Chamber to produce some sense of a younger, more creative version of Lex.
Lane of Lex.
Yeah. And I kind of pitched the same thing to Huber in my own way, just like, separately. And then like those two ideas converge, and that's
they're like, wait a minute, we're hearing this from two different people.
For sure.
Why don't you guys do it together?
Yeah. It's okay. All right. That's good. So, and that's what created Advanced 317. So then that was our first project where we really got to hone in on our ability to move and engineer things forward. Programming, then also just finding ways to introduce equity in very creative elements and ways. Which Advanced 317 is the younger, more creative portion of Lex. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I would say so.
Yeah.
We made it.
Yeah, but and then so that was back in 2015, and the whole narrative of Advanced 317, like during that first iteration, was a creative economy. So we talked about how music and food and fashion, how all of those things impact economic development and mass transit and just things that the city was really intentional about, but. We just offered just a different lens and perspective into that.
That's pretty interesting, though, how our very foundation, even meeting each other, we were both in a mindset of best practices from other cities to bring to Indianapolis. So it's always been about like, how do we improve our place? And even like meeting there and right away having a project together just taught us like, we can do big things quickly because like this works.
Yeah, for sure.
So like what else? I mean, I remember even after Advanced 317 saying, okay, so what are we tackling next? Like, this feels like some sort of super team.
Cool. Okay, so this idea of culture, right? So you just take the word culture, it's packed with a lot of things. Yeah, so for the purposes of your work, how are you defining culture?
I define it as the connective tissue between the arts and humanities. It's what connects us as humans, and sometimes it's intangible and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and like I don't like to define it as much because culture can really be anything. Just one of my favorite artists is Sting, and he had a song, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. And it's a very popular song, like, Puffy, which I think his name is Love now, sampled the song. So it's just this big, giant song that has lived forever. But what Sting did in the song, he never said or described what or who you was in the song. So you could be anything to anyone. And I think that's the beauty of culture as well, because it's just your association to life, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about being able to do this gang work, because we're able to impact literally every human being on the planet, because we're doing it through the lens of something that doesn't necessarily need to be defined.
So zoom in for me, right? So if someone is learning about this for the first time, learning about gang, so tactically, what does that look like? It's performances, it's art engagement. What is kind of like, not the menu, I think that's a little too transactional, but what are the things that people are going to see you out doing?
Yeah.
Sure, yes. People could most relate to culture in terms of art, because we talk about arts and culture together as if they are synonymous. But art is like a very big subset of culture. So while we could be talking about live performance or the visual arts, we could also be talking about fashion shows and festivals and entertainment and cocktails and food and all the things that might not be how we directly think about art if we were to say that.
Obviously, then, launching a company together, I'm imagining my life, right? And Natalie and I once moved a couch together. And by the time we were done moving that couch, we were not speaking to one another. Okay, so I guess I'm just curious, like, how does that dynamic work, right? Because y'all have complex lives anyway.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
How are you managing, being a couple that's running a company together?
Yeah, and that's like it's a great question and thoughtful question, because like people don't understand just the full breadth of everything. I mean, so you see, the Instagram posts or the stories, and GANGGANG is doing this in the paper, but we're doing this together within a relationship.
With 5 children between us.
5 kids.
Let's not forget that.
We love you, kids.
Yes, we love you.
We love you, kids.
It makes life so lovely.
Yeah, but it definitely creates just opportunities, challenges. I mean, just everything.
But I can't imagine at this point being able to do GANGGANG in any other way. Like the speed in which we're moving and the projects that we're tackling and the conversations that we need to have, and to be able to just go straight into the meat of it, into the why of it, into the the ground of everything. You have to have a person that you can trust to be able to do this work, and to be able to say, is this a good idea? Is this, like, are we holding ourselves accountable?
Yeah.
Is this shaping the city in the way that we set out to? And so at this point, it's like, even if I am pissed that day, or if I had an attitude that week, which, was every other week, it's like, well, we've got to get this stuff done. And so I can only move through it with you.
And this is my attitude week this week. It's been crazy. But yeah, and I think that, just the relationship just allows us to have more dissonance versus disagreements, when it comes to kind of just the direction of the organization and kind of what we do and why we do the things. So, and we have similar missions in life. I mean, it's really grounded in love and faith, and you just understand just the importance of creativity and history. So it works.
It's becoming seamless, which I wonder how good and bad that is.
Yeah.
So you've both said the why. So let's go there. Why GANGGANG? Right? Why did this happen? Why is this necessary?
Are you gonna drink any of your whiskey?
I'm trying to stay sharp because y'all are sharp. So I'm just trying not to lose myself in the tasty West Fork Whiskey Company bourbon. So
I am loving my cocktail.
Yeah, for
sure. Legit. Why GANGGANG? Okay, so
maybe why GANGGANG in the moment as well, right?
Well, GANGGANG. A lot of the why of GANGGANG is because of the moment. Everything that was the summer of 2020, right? I feel like stories 10 years from now are going to start with, it was the summer of 2020.
Everybody's.
We were, of course, all in this pandemic, and that was a weird thing for the world. And then the murder of George Floyd happened, and the world flipped out, rightly so, and we were in the middle of planning the Black Lives Matter street mural on Indiana Avenue, which seemed like a short-term, immediate response, like, this is something we could do. This is something we want Indianapolis to do. So is anybody else raising their hand? Okay, it's us, So that was one thing. But then as the summer continued and as everything kind of heightened, and people were asking me personally, like close people to me, like, what are you going to do right now? What are you going to do to get us out of this moment as a city? Like, what are you saying is the path forward? Can you come and talk about this? What do you think? And I'm like, why is everybody asking me this right now? I'm not an expert or whatever. But I think that forced something. It forced a solution. Do you want to jump in here?
I was going to jump in, but I'm trying to think of like my hopscotch moment. I was trying to time it.
Okay.
And not to get slapped by the ropes. But is this me? Not yet. See?
Not yet. So I especially appreciate Richard McCoy with Landmark Columbus, who was asking those very questions and being a little too demanding of me, like figuring something out. And he came over to our porch one afternoon And he and I shared a bottle of wine, just brainstorming on what to do in this moment and where's my career right now, and just like, Molly, you got to lead type of stuff. And we drank for too long, and Alan got pretty pissed.
Not because like they're just drinking, but it was too long. I mean, and this is like our night.
Sometimes it's just too long.
Yeah, we tried to go to Beholder. Like we had stuff to do. You know what I mean?
I get that.
Yeah.
Richard,
my wife works a lot, so I get it.
Right. Yeah. So the night we came up with Gang Gang was like one of those attitude nights, you know, when we're talking about like couples and working and all of that. But it clicked to me that if I were new to this city, you know, what would I expect Indianapolis to have for me, especially right now, you know, in like where the world is. What would I want the city to be doing, and what would I expect it to be giving me? And it was a cultural organization, almost like a cultural startup that was out there doing the bold things, right, and pushing things forward and being very progressive and bold and talking about hard things like reparations, but in bright and cool and sustainable ways.
And not just like talking about it, and that's what the middle of 2020 was. I mean, it was a lot of talk. It was a lot of, you know, diversity and equity statements and what we would like to do, but we don't know the way forward. So, you know, we felt that let's just do the things. Like, let's do what we know will work, especially in this moment. So if everything 2020, you know, whether it's the pandemic, health pandemic, or the racial pandemic, you know, what would be the thing that would bring people together if 2020 was about what separates us? And that the answer was culture. I mean, it's art, it's all the humanities, it's food, it's fashion, it's storytelling. So let's do those things which we know will work.
And hit two birds with one stone.
Exactly. So this equity work, and we're at the same time we're supporting the creative economy, which that's
and
where
making our city more vibrant. And at the time, everyone was asking us for help with diversity plans. Like that, those were like the jobs or the side hustles or the answer at the moment. Can you help us do this strategy for equity and da 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 da?
And it's a very 2019
and we were
question.
Like, no,
you know what I'm saying?
Like we're not writing anything down anymore. We already know what we would write down. So let's just like create something and do those things.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, instead of like writing it down for.
I read something this week that I'd be interested in what you guys think about. So, you know, we always talk about cultural competence, right? Like this is an important element, and I think it's kind of along these same lines. Like we're always pursuing cultural competence. But what this person wrote was that we need cultural credibility. And so I'm kind of interested in what you guys think about that. I mean, there's the idea of going through the exercise and having conversations and completing a training and patting yourself on the back and saying, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
But then there's like having credibility around it. So as you all are doing this work, what does cultural credibility look like? And I'm not just talking amongst the creative space, but like white-led organizations. What does cultural credibility look like?
I think like cultural credibility is just like effort and consistency, right? But from a very like genuine and authentic place. And I think that's what we don't see enough. We don't see the level of effort that I think is needed in this moment. We don't see just the intentionality behind consistency. And I don't believe in all cases that these statements or, you know, proclamations are coming from authentic, are coming from authentic places. So I think that's the, you know, the three core things that I would like to that I would liken to that, you know, answer to that question.
I still don't know that I have an answer to that question. I know that it's got to be baked in like realness, you know, or authenticity, to use the word that you used, because if it's not a sustainable practice, you know, which is the other issue with all these trainings and diversity plans. It's like start where you are and go down that path, or engage people who have a lived experience and that you can learn from and let them do the work. I'm not sure this is coming out right, but I think I really love that question, and I need like a week to think about it.
Yeah, and
we'll come back and drink some more whiskey.
Yes, please.
For sure.
We'll FaceTime, and we'll figure it out.
2022. Yeah, but I think, and that's I think the issue as well is like a lot of organizations was forced into this moment, like we all were, right? So like you're forced personally and you're forced, you know, professionally. And, you know, ones that are forced personally, I mean, it's like two different, you know, dichotomies, right? As far as how would you address this moment? How do I respond? So there's like the business response, and then there's like your personal response, and those don't align, you know, all the time. And I think we see that play out a lot just within society. I mean, just, you know, it feels different in Indy today than it did October October-ish, September, just like after, summer 2020, and just like all the action and statements and just like all that has died down. Honestly, like not all of it, but I mean, there's a good amount, and there's some good things that I think came out of that. But it's going to definitely take more collaboration, more of a collective effort. There's more people sticking to it. Yeah.
And at least GANGGANG is here to be intentional. Like,
For sure.
We'll carry us through Indianapolis if no one else does.
Yeah, and we'll keep pushing the message and amplifying the message, and elevating just the narrative that this is the work that needs to be done. But yeah, it's gonna take the whole entire city.
So we're running into this thing where I could talk to you guys all day. So I'm gonna try to ask specific questions now, because I'm just rolling at this point, because this is I just like you guys and this is fun. Like, GANGGANG, the name. Yeah. So tell me about the name, where it came from, how you came to the name.
Got it.
Good question, for sure.
See, this is a very specific question.
Yes.
I'm like,
yep.
Because I don't think we can run an hour-and-a-half episode.
Right, yeah, we could keep talking. You're right, for sure.
But I still would like to come over to the porch and share a bottle of wine.
Yes, please.
It's just me. I'm just saying.
We can go past 90 minutes.
Okay.
I guess that's the mark.
Alan can participate.
No, that's all good. Yeah, I was cool, just chilling in the house.
Right.
As long as I know
playing the guitar. Yeah. So, GANGGANG, the name. Tell me about the name.
The name. Yeah. So we came up with the idea for GANGGANG on Thursday night. We went back into brainstorming mode Friday night to figure out what this thing could be called.
You're talking so fast, man.
Oh, you can understand me.
It's great.
Yeah. That's because this is like rapid fire.
Oh, is that what it is?
We're getting back on track, Alan. We're trying not to go 90 minutes.
So I'm like, start saying words that have something to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about culture and vibrancy and city building and equity, and start saying words. And so he's just like pacing the living room saying words. And he said something, and then he said gang, and then he said GANGGANG, and then he said fork. And I was like, wait, hold on. GANGGANG is super cute in my mind, right? Visual thinker. And so we went to the dictionary, found out what it meant, went a couple dictionaries back because I'm a word person. And gang means journey. It means a way. And then later in Middle English, like a set of things or people which go someplace together. So the whole the way that we talk about gangs now, or the way we reference them, is completely made up. Criminalizing groups of Black men is not the definition of the word. And so we thought, how beautiful to and that's what GANGGANG's all about, right? Like reclamation and giving honor and power and acknowledgement and money back to originators. So yeah, GANGGANG was kind of perfect and kind of cool.
So while you weren't on the porch with the bottle of wine,
for sure, I came up with the name. Yeah. It is. I don't want that to get lost in any story.
Yeah, we will include that. We got 3 cameras catching it, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do you hope we land, right? Because you are 2 vision-focused, goal-focused people. I know that very well. So what's the end goal when this work? And I know it's perpetual, right? It's this is GANGGANG, meaning a journey. I suspect a journey is going to be ongoing, but where do you hope this takes us as a community?
Nice. Can I say before I forget?
Go ahead.
Ownership and mindset shift is what I think of first. Ownership in terms of we're here to give cultural entrepreneurs a shot at their own careers, so moving side hustlers to full-time creatives, full-time artists, full-time cultural entrepreneurs is a real thing. We're also here to edit the mindset of a society, and to get us to think beyond ourselves and to stop thinking that overcoming racism is impossible or that nobody has the answer, when really we all really know what to do. And so if we can edit the mindset and get us to think that we just have to change behaviors, literally, I think at least that's my goal.
Yeah, and then there's also tangible, assets too, man, as we, begin to elevate the creative economy to be on par with the tech industry and manufacturing, just understanding just how important your creatives and cultural assets are to a city. I mean, if you think about your favorite cities across the country, whether that's Miami or Nashville or Austin or New York or Cali, I mean, those cities lead with culture. They lead with their food and culinary scene and fashion and music, and those are the cities that may not have a issue or problem with talent attraction and retention. So it's how can we impact talent attraction and retention? How can we impact, tourism? What can we do to make our city cool, that we can attract, more, not just visitors, but people? Yeah, cooler?
Yes.
Okay, my bad. Why you come here with it? Could you not edit that? Because she does that all the time. So like my grammar, since we started working together.
No, you said make our city cool. I'm just saying cooler.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm leaving every single bit of that in. Okay. So yeah, go on.
For sure. Okay, I get what you said now. Yeah, I mean, so it's those tangible things from a talent attraction, retention. How can we impact tourism? How can we, we've from the past 10 years we went from the 13th largest, city to the 17th. So what does that look like to go back to 13? So how are we going to get there? How are we going to grow this economy in more creative ways? So I think we're looking at this as also a concept to improve the quality of life of cities, right? And just like, how can we make Indianapolis the most inclusive city in America? It's going to be through culture.
Obviously in Indiana, Indianapolis is already the cultural epicenter for the state.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But macro level, we are not considered at present a cultural epicenter in this country.
We are not.
We are not.
Can we be?
As a state?
As a city?
As a city?
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I think we're already starting to see that pivot and turn. I think a lot of it, I mean, as you saw just the work, led by Sports Corps during, March Madness, and just how, so we were creative directors of Swish, which is the performing art component to the NCAA tournament that Indianapolis hosted. And I mean, that was a great moment just to show the best of Indy from a creative lens. So we had all different types of people and background and ethnicities and genres of, music and performing art come together and converge together, which I think was a turning point to the city, just to show that, we are more than what we thought we were before this moment, right?
And we have our own unique stories. Yeah. Indianapolis has a different story and a different experience than Indiana does, and I think we could communicate that more broadly and boldly outside of ourselves.
What projects are coming up that you're really excited about?
We are pumped about Butter. Oh my gosh, and intimidated by it and energized by it.
What is Butter?
We're having a Black Fine Art Fair.
Okay.
Like, we're bringing Indianapolis a Black Fine Art Fair. And the inaugural fair is Labor Day weekend. It's September 1 through 5.
It's held at the historic Stutz building. So we've cleared out this giant warehouse, and we'll be building gallery walls and just transforming the space to be like a Miami Art Basel-ish,
but Black and in Indianapolis.
Right here in Indy. Yeah, absolutely.
So it should be fun and quirky and very cool. And the intention here is to elevate the narrative around purchasing fine art in the Midwest and in Indianapolis, and art made by Black people, and to determine and come up with like more equitable models within the fine arts industry. And so there are no like fees. We're not charging artists to participate, and we're not taking any fees once we sell their work. So 100% of all proceeds and profits go back to the artist, again, as a way to kind of repair and repay Black culture for their contribution to America.
Yeah. And it's also just a way to just to help educate just the community on how to really appreciate fine art, and to just change the stereotypical lens of Black art, which we're focusing on Black artists who produce fine art versus Black art, if that makes sense. So it's Black artists. I think we're less than 1%. Visual artists in all fine art institutions. So how do we begin to change that narrative and really impact that industry in a very intentional way to bring more equity? And Butter's the beginning of that.
So if folks want to find out more about this, get the information. Where's my wide shot at? Right here. Okay, so we're going to look in here. We're going to say how they find it, and then we're going to put the thing below. So say it again.
Butterartfair.com.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, so Butter's coming up. We're excited about that. What are you excited about, looking forward to, intimidated by? I like that you said that, as it relates to what's happening around racial equity in the city more broadly, both creative space, whatever you want to touch on, but where do we need to be headed, and what's that look like?
I'm not sure that I'm as intimidated by the slowing down of the conversation, because I expected it. And I don't mean to say that like Indianapolis isn't talking about race anymore. That's not a thing.
It's the country.
But like we know that this is also like the topic of the moment, you know, and that's it's the country, it's the world.
Yeah.
Subjects change, and so maybe I have a little bit of anxiety around what happens to us as an organization, maybe in 3 to 5 or 7 years when this isn't a mainstream and over-verbalized priority.
And I think we found just a loophole to like continue the conversation and amplify, racial justice, through culture. So it's a less, I guess, hard way to kind of have like tough conversations around race that usually ends up maybe like having much more of like a negative like connotation within dialogue.
I don't think it's negative. I think it's depressing.
Yeah, for sure.
And it feels hard to have. You know, like when we as a society or city like approach these conversations, it's in this like we think that we're going to have to stay in this deficit, and so we approach it like it's a serious topic. Like let's all do this, and it is. Rightly so. Of course.
But educating through culture.
But there's an alternative. We can talk about it in a way that feels bright, in a way that feels forward. And so I'm energized by that.
For sure.
Do you think our generation's better at this? Like, are we better at sitting down and having these conversations?
Yes.
No, absolutely.
Are.
Yeah, for sure. And then like the generation behind us are even better than
they don't even
us.
have the conversations. They just take it to the streets. But our generation, yes, we're really good at the dialogue part.
Right.
So I think I got maybe 2 more questions. And you all, your whole relationship started in creating A317, which is all about channeling young leaders into roles of impact and into these discussions, right?
For sure. Yeah.
To what extent are you still thinking about leadership in a traditional sense and how those spaces need to be filled by young people, by creative people, by people of color? What's kind of your mindset around that component of it? And I'm talking everything, right? Boards and commissions, city leadership, all of that. Are you all still thinking that that's a place where you are digging a trench and going to battle on?
Yeah, and I think and that's how you evolve. I think we need more diversity of thought, but more creative diversity of thought to a lot of traditional problems that still plague us today. So are we moving at the pace that we should to advance like some of these things that challenges forward? Yeah, and it's a slow pace just because like we're not introducing more creativity into the conversation. So I think that's one of the things that I think is just really, I guess, just the caveat of just what gets me excited is knowing that change is coming. Yeah, we're going to get more creators to the table, but I think it's also about just the type of roles. It's not always about hiring like another, diversity, trainer or, chief diversity officer. How about just like hire a Black CFO or Indian, CEO? Like, so, there's different ways I think we can attack, this challenge of racial, justice and equity in this city and beyond. But I think just our approach, just maybe mindset needs to shift and change a little bit. I'm rambling. I don't even know what I just said, bro.
I think, there were some nuggets in there. I would say we think about it in terms of our own organization and who to engage and hire to help us think, because are we aging out? Maybe. I don't know. And so we have to ask.
I think about that every day leading Indy Hub. I'm like, how old
can you be?
I'm just inching towards it, but
I know. It's a thing. And so we have to ask people, is this cool? Or can you book, like who should we book? And that's okay, so it engages more cultural entrepreneurs, and it's really cool to just be able to pay people to do jobs in this industry, in this sector, because Indianapolis doesn't have enough jobs in this sector. So as much as we can do there, absolutely, we will.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and I apologize, this is a little bit personal, but I think I can ask it and you guys will cut me some slack. You have 5 kids between the 2 of you.
Yeah.
What do you hope they say about your work?
Ooh.
As parents, I think you're always in that, constant cycle of trying to prove your coolness. You know what I mean? So I want them to know like how hot we are in this moment, which they don't respect that at all.
I want them to choose Indianapolis because of our work. You know, I want them to say, after college, yeah, I'll come back to Indy. I'll stay home because, you know, they made it cool. They made it a place that I wanted to be.
And for them to get excited about their own creativity. Like, I don't think if Gang Gang never happened, I don't know if my son would be playing guitar right now, right? Because he did nothing his entire life. I'm just like just begging one of my kids to pick up my musical ability and creativity. And it was him. And I think a lot of it is just exposing, you know, kids, specifically our kids, to this is what the world should look and feel like. And it's okay to head in this direction. So, you know, maybe we'll produce more rock stars out the group.
Well, I love you guys. I'm so excited that you're a part of shaping our city, and thanks for spending some time with us. And
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Good to see you both.
For sure.